Here's the flyover from 7 to 13. Assumption, LA. This is from July 6, 2013, Bizarre Weather Loop. Dig Dougie Dig Doug. DIGDUGGY who I subscribe to. He has good things on there. And this is very interesting. This is what happened yesterday. Check this out. He caught this on tape, and the clouds look really strange. Alrighty then, here we go. Live. This is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is June 7th, 2013, and here are your news updates for today. I have a lot that I'm attaching today, more than what the news is. Nothing new on the E&E News. The Watchers watching the world. Very strong earthquake, magnitude 7.2, struck New Ireland region, Papua New Guinea. At the foot of the largest volcano in the solar system, Olympus Mons Mars. Oh, looks like there's ruins there. I'll have to get you a picture of that one next time. Global warming debunked. NASA report verifies carbon dioxide actually cools atmosphere. There you go. Isn't that what they make some of the fire extinguishers out of? CO2. Also, heads up, thanks for the information. Colleen from California says that Tuesday you're going back into a heat wave in the Los Angeles area, California, on the west coast, going up into the hundreds again for until Thursday maybe. And my suggestion, heads up, make sure that, you know what I used to do living out there all my life just about, is that I used to go and buy a bottle of the fruit-flavored Pedialyte. So when I started getting a heat headache, then I would drink that stuff, and somehow it'd get rid of the headache. It's kind of stopped me from actually getting like a heat stroke. But you still stay out of the sun, but at least you won't dehydrate. Get your electrolytes back in, Alrighty then. Might be a good idea to have some of that on hand, because it works for adults too, believe it or not. That's I'm just telling you how I do it. And what else is going on? Let's go into the Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. Possible eruption of Japan's Aotorishima volcano. Freak hailstorm dumps tons of ice on New Mexico and Alberta, Canada. Alrighty then. We're done with that. I'm done with that. I don't know you, but I think it's nice that sometimes I hear stuff on Fox radio, which is interesting. But you know what I can't stand is there's so many people out of work, and always the guest host is someone that a lot of times aren't even a citizen. Didn't you realize that? It's like if you're an American born here, your jobs are outsourced. It's not that the old people. Here's another one I heard. Oh, it's the old people taking the kids' jobs. Wrong. It's when you call your cable company and they say they're out there in Mexico, or they're up in Canada. What is that? That's who's taking the jobs. How dare you? These university studies. My peers are idiots. Do you understand? The jobs have to be here first in order for us to be employed. Already then. Oh, dogs and cats in the background. I'm sick of it. Outsourcing jobs. Also media outsourcing. Some of these people I hear, I can't understand their accent, their British accents. Didn't we leave England? Isn't that what it's all about? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's like a kick in the face. You said that, the old people are taking the younger people's jobs because the jobs that they would have had are outsourced to other countries. Why don't you bring the jobs back and we won't have a problem? This is done purposely. Don't think it's not. Of course it is. But to deny it and act like you're incompetent and say, these people don't want to work those jobs. Baloney. I know a lot of people that work any type of job, in order not to lose their place. So, that's baloney. Alrighty then. Alright, that's enough of a rant. go on with. I heard this thing on Coast to Coast. I thought I don't know. I'm not going to even spoil it for you. The first few minutes of Coast to Coast, I'm going to try to attach also. So it's a lot more news. Some of it's from the past, and so I'll give you a heads up and a catch up on some things you might have missed out on. Take care. I'll see you again on the flip side tomorrow. Be safe, and always be prepared for anything. I thought this was important to hear. Check this out.
Here with you tonight. We will speak with, yes, Peter Lance. Now, you may recall hearing an interview with Peter Lance conducted by George Norrie on the 21st of May, talking about his new book, Deal with the Devil, about the ongoing, rolling relationship between the FBI and one of the most notorious hitmen ever in the annals of that thing, Mafia, La Cosa Nostra. But tonight, it is propitious that we should speak with Peter about some other revelations that have actually occurred to him some time back. He didn't really want to get into it then, but he's going to get into it tonight with us. Remember a couple of weeks ago, there was quite a bit of discussion about a revival of the missile theory in regards to TWA 800. Well, something blew. But by the time the discourse comes to an end tonight, I think we will conclude that the missile is the least of it. All right, got some heavy-duty hot news here for you. National Guard units seeking to confiscate a cache of recently banned assault weapons were ambushed by elements of a paramilitary extremist faction. Military and law enforcement sources estimate that 72 were killed and more than 200 injured before government forces were compelled to withdraw. Speaking after the clash, the Massachusetts governor declared that the extremist faction, which was made up of local citizens, has links to the radical right-wing tax protest movement. Blamed the extremists for recent incidents of vandalism directed against the revenue offices. The governor, who described the group's organizers as criminals, issued an executive order authorizing the summary arrest of any individual who has interfered with the government's efforts to secure law and order. The military raid on the extremist arsenal followed widespread refusal by the local citizenry to turn over recently outlawed assault weapons. A ban was issued on military-style assault weapons and ammunition earlier in the week. This decision followed a meeting earlier in the month between the government and military leaders, at which time the governor authorized the forcible confiscation of illegal arms. One government official, speaking on condition of anonymity, pointed out that none of these people would have been killed had the extremists obeyed the law and turned over their weapons voluntarily. Government troops initially succeeded in confiscating a large supply of outlawed weapons and ammunition. However, troops attempting to seize arms and ammunition in Lexington met with resistance from heavily armed extremists who had been tipped off regarding the government's plans. During a tense standoff in the Lexington Town Park, National Guard Colonel Smith, commander of the government operation, ordered the armed group to surrender and return to their homes. The impasse was broken by a single shot, which was reportedly fired by one of the right-wing extremists. 8 civilians were killed in the ensuing exchange. Ironically, the local citizenry blamed government forces rather than the extremists for the civilian deaths. Before order could be restored, armed citizens from surrounding areas had descended upon the guard units. Colonel Smith, finding his forces overmatched by the armed mob, ordered a retreat. The governor has called upon citizens to support the State National Joint Task Force in its efforts to restore law and order. The governor has also demanded the surrender of those responsible for planning and leading the attack against the government troops. I recognize these names: Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, and John Hancock, who have been identified as ringleaders of the extremist faction, remain at large. Oh, this is old news. This is how the American Revolution began. April 19, 1775. Oh, well, sorry. Let me see if I can get something up here a little bit more current. How about that crash landing at San Francisco airport? Looked to me like it might have flared just a little bit of low to the ground, ripped the tail off the thing. Hope everybody is recovering from that incident on July 4th there at the Simi Valley, when the fireworks, apparently the platform collapsed and started launching these big fireworks into the crowd, and a bunch of people were injured. It's ridiculous. Anyway, look, the whole point is this. In a minute, we're going to bring on Mike Adams. He wrote what I thought was really quite a good article about the militarization of police, and basically police gone wild, cops gone wild across America. I've been hearing about this all day today, from Massachusetts, as a matter of fact, up in the Boston area, even emergency services personnel, the medical types, screaming at people, can't carry anything into a public venue larger than a wallet, including your insulin. And again, screaming at citizens who are keeping their cool. Citizens across Texas, the Carolinas. Mandatory checkpoints. In some cases, you will blow in the breathalyzer, or you will be removed from your vehicle, strapped to a gurney, and blood drawn for testing. So we're going to bring on Mike Adams here in just a minute. You know, I was thinking again, and it occurred to me all this NDAA thing. We've talked about the NDAA, about how you can be detained by the military without warrant, without phone call, without lawyer, without charges, indefinitely. They don't even have to tell anybody where you are. Under those circumstances, might not even be in this country where you are being detained. And from Doug Casey's International Man, titled What Real Independence Looks Like, this is from Full Spectrum Dominance. Nick Giambruno writes, in the light of upcoming Independence Day, because this was a couple of days before, I think we should consider the following question. What does real independence look like, and how do we personally achieve it? Anyone paying the slightest attention to the machinations of the welfare state knows what it does not look like. With confiscatory taxation at all levels, the gutting of the Bill of Rights through the so-called Patriot Act, the NDAA, secret courts, executive orders, indefinite detention, the need to be in compliance with an ever-growing stack of regulations, edicts, and laws, the militarization of the police, the use of the IRS as a political weapon, assassination of U.S. citizens without due process, indirect capital controls through FATCA, NSA warrantless spying, worldwide perpetual warfare with an undefined enemy, QE4 EVA, and never-ending stimulus efforts, ever-expanding welfare programs, domestic use of drones, stealth taxation by inflation, and a fiat monetary system, and this is not an exhaustive list. It is no secret that the U.S. of today bears little resemblance to the original American principles that at least preserved a certain degree of independence for the individual. This is just a short synopsis of the state of affairs right now. Imagine what the future will bring as the U.S. government, or any government, gets even more desperate as its fiscal situation deteriorates from the unsustainable spending from the policies listed above. Witness Egypt. 22 million signatures on a petition for Morsi to leave. The military finally has to say, get out. Now, some say they cut their money, but I think it's got to be something besides cutting their pay that resulted in this. But in any case, anybody's attempt to consolidate the Middle East under the leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood, I would say that's at least been deferred for the time being. All right, the only thing I can tell you is we're going to have some good talk, some good tunes, and a pretty good time tonight. I'll bet you. This is Coast to Coast AM. Stand by. We'll be right back with Mike Adams. Mike Adams, come on the bridge of the mothership without any further ado. Come most presently upon your hour, sir.
Hello, John. Thanks for having me on the show. Great to be with you tonight.
Hey, well, it's good to have you here. I spotted your article on AJ's, that's Alex Jones's InfoWars, militarized police gone wild across America, and it's true. Certainly a case can be made for it. Shooting up vehicles, warrantless blood draws from driver, pet dogs, getting shot. I watched and discussed at that particular video. This guy was videotaping some police officers down the street, and he puts his dog in the car, and it doesn't look like it's very old. It's a Rottweiler. It's like a year and a half old, 2 years old, something like that. And they just shoot the thing when it gets out and starts going, what are you doing? Yeah. The master here. They shoot the dog, and I didn't know whether I wanted to hurl or cry. It was awful. It was disgusting. And I'm getting these reports from all over the place. I mentioned the program, if you heard it earlier, that even EMS people screaming at citizens who are trying to comply with their wishes and so forth. What kind of intelligence have you been gathering that led you to write this article?
Well, we need police. I want to be on the record and say that my whole background is being pro-local peace officers. I've worked with local cops. I was given an award by the chief of police in an Arizona city. I volunteered with cops. But what we're seeing now is that the idea of being a peace officer is being replaced by federal programs that are giving these police training as if they're military occupying forces. And federal grants are also giving them the kind of equipment that military usually uses for an invasion. This is the kind of thing we have in Afghanistan, Humvees and armored assault vehicles on the streets of America. And I think it's very concerning that Obama, during the gun control debate, he said, AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not on the streets of America. Yet it is his administration that has put Humvees and armored cars and full auto assault weapons in the hands of, for example, IRS agents who are not training with AR-15. That's on the record. So we've got this militarization of police who should be serving the local community, who should be acting in a very local manner, serving and protecting the public, but more and more are acting like, again, occupying forces as if they were running roadblocks in Afghanistan. And you mentioned, John, when we spoke earlier about, cops taking drivers out of their vehicles and strapping them down onto gurneys and forcibly taking their blood. And this is true. And I call it trickle-down tyranny. It starts at the top, it trickles down to the police, to the point where we all feel the tyranny now. We're being terrorized. We're living in a de facto martial law scenario. The police state is here, John.
Well, I'm afraid you're right. And in talking with several friends over the course of the long weekend, these little dome-shaped, multiple-lensed surveillance cameras just being stuck up on telephone poles or power lines, whatever they're running over them, all over little neighborhoods, not big intersections. I pulled up at an intersection the other day, a highway. It doesn't look like broad streets everywhere. It doesn't look like any sort of a be careful here. This is probably an accident-prone spot. Not at all. I'm wondering, why are 5 cameras necessary at this intersection? What is this all about? And go ahead.
They say they can videotape you because you have no expectation of privacy because it's a public space. And yet when you, a private citizen, attempts to videotape police, not getting in their business, not interfering, videotaping them from a very safe distance, sometimes 40, 50, 60 feet away, they don't like that. They arrest you and they prosecute you. And in fact, the California police that shot that man's dog, that just happened a few days ago, the video that is shocking everybody all over the world, has shot the man's Rottweiler in cold blood. That man was doing nothing other than videotaping police, which is perfectly legal. So what this is really a sign of is the fact that anyone who works for the government now is being given complete immunity to all laws. They are above the law, and the laws only apply to you, the citizen. So we no longer have a nation where all men and women are created equal. We no longer have a nation of justice where we're all equal under the law. Forget about civil rights. It doesn't exist anymore. None of us have civil rights, no matter what our skin color. None of us have civil rights because the government is immune to all laws, and we are targeted for selective prosecution by the IRS, by local police, by the Department of Justice targeting journalists. If you blow the whistle, if you're a whistleblower, you're going to be prosecuted. So we are no longer a nation of law, and that means if we don't turn it around, John, this will implode, it will crash, it will be very, very bad because it can't be sustained.
Well, I don't mind joining you in this chorus that, I know several police officers. I don't have some sort of a cop crush syndrome going or anything, but you run into them and they're nice. A couple of them in particular are just absolutely, completely regular people, steady, family people. They like this program. But the thing is that these fellows follow orders, and few would deny that there is an us and them mentality. It's the police.
地元に対してはですね
We'd like to explain to the residents why we want to make our application to the government as soon as possible.
Totally serious. TEPCO says the key to its turnaround plan is the phased restart of 4 of 7 reactors at the Kashiwazaki Karawa plant.
Sociopaths tend to be charming, they tend to be fearless, they tend
devastating.
The IAEA's nuclear security guidelines. They also agreed to minimize
from the fucking nuclear power industry. Screw you, nuclear energy.
Where a few sociopaths basically turn an entire organization into a functioning sociopathic unit.
When the fish all die and the lakes catch fire, will it be worth it then? And when the cancer rate's 90% or higher, will it be worth it then? When the whole world's at war over water and oil, will it be worth it then? And when there's no more fighting, 'cause there's no more spoils, will it be worth it then? If not, what will it take to make you change your mind? What kind of sign could convince you that people are worth more than you can get from them? What has to happen before you embrace your part? Or will it be too late to fix all the problems? You promised the market was sold out, 'cause economic growth won't save us. Cost of illnesses won't save us. Voluntary rules won't save us. Rich economics won't save us. When the glaciers are gone and oceans are too strong, will it be worth it then?
Now, North Korean diplomats have been holding a series of meetings to try to lay the groundwork for the resumption of the six-party talks. Their next stop is Russia. First Vice Foreign Minister Kim Kye-gwan will fly to Moscow after passing through Beijing. Kim is scheduled to meet senior officials at the Russian Foreign Ministry. He's expected to ask for their help in resuming the negotiations, which broke down in 2008. Diplomats from the United States, Japan, and South Korea say they won't come to the table until authorities in Pyongyang take concrete steps toward denuclearization. Analysts say the North Koreans may be looking to Russia to counter that demand.
Foreign ministers from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations are sitting down with their counterparts in Brunei. The talks on regional security are expected to cover a range of issues, including North Korea's nuclear program. Ministers from more than 24 nations and international bodies are taking part in the 20th ASEAN Regional Forum. They represent countries including Japan, the United States, as well as North Korea. Officials from the North have recently suggested they're ready to resume talks with other nations. The six-party talks on the country's nuclear program have been on hold for 4.5 years. Ministers from Japan, the US and South Korea have some conditions for resuming talks. They are likely to press North Korea make concrete progress on ending nuclear development. But North Korea's foreign minister is expected to argue that the country needs its nuclear program for self-defense against US threats.
We have an announcement finally on whether cell phones cause cancer. It's something that could affect all of us and our children. Scientists from the World Health Organization have been reviewing studies for the last week or so. I want to bring in our senior medical correspondent, Elizabeth Cohen, who joins us live with the findings. Essentially, what did they find?
The World Health Organization says that the radiation from mobile devices like cell phones is a possible carcinogen to humans. This is a very big deal because you and I have done segments about this before. Sure. It has gone back and forth. And this is really the first time that a large group, and it doesn't get any more sort of prestigious in many ways than the WHO, to say that it's a possible carcinogen. It puts it in the company of several other kinds of things. And so I want to tell you what it is, and I think that might give people an idea of what we're talking about. It puts it in the company of things like lead is also a possible carcinogen, according to the WHO, as well as engine exhaust and chloroform. So that sort of gives you an idea of the kind of risk that we're talking about here.
I can't help but ask, I mean, should we be alarmed? Should we be freaking out over this information?
You know what? I really hope that people who are listening to me are not freaked out. For two reasons. One, they won't do the right thing, and we'll talk about what the right thing is in a minute. And two, they'll panic, and that's kind of silly because all these years we've been on cell phones and holding them to our heads, which is what we're talking about as being bad. That's done. You can't do anything about that. And if you're on the phone right now, you don't need to drop it. You know, it's not that kind of a carcinogen. It's a kind of a carcinogen, or allegedly, possibly, that would build up over time. One phone call, doctors tell me, is not going to give you cancer.
So what should we be doing? With this new information, what on earth should we be doing now?
We are so lucky that there is something that we can do, because a lot of medical problems we can't, but we're lucky that there is something, and I am holding it in my hands right now. You use a device to keep that phone away from your head. Okay, I'm going to make it very simple. This is what experts that I talk to don't want you to do. This radiation is very close to your head. The minute that you put one of these in, you can hold the phone at a distance. At this distance, that radiation is dissipating. It's not going to affect you very much, if at all. Hold it away from your head, which means using a wired piece like this or a Bluetooth, or put it on speakerphone. Keep it away from your head. That's the bottom line, and it's really easy to do. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times in the past year that I have spoken on the phone like this. I just don't do it.
I'm going to change my habits. Do you have any idea, or did who say anything about whether or not it can be on your body, on your person, in a pocket, in a holster, or anything like that? Did they weigh in at all?
WHO really focused on gliomas, which are brain tumors, because that's what a lot of the studies have been on. But Suzanne, I've certainly spoken to experts who say that they themselves do not carry it on their bodies, that they figure why take that risk if there is a risk, and so they will carry their phones in their purses or in a briefcase. You know, they'll try to keep it a bit of a distance away from their bodies, but the jury is still out on that.
And what do you think cell phone companies are going to do? How do they respond to this? Is there a way that they can manufacture a safer phone, or?
Right, we're seeking a response from the CTIA, which is the industry group, and I think what could happen is that people like the FCC, or other groups like that in other countries might say, this is important what the WHO is saying, and so maybe we ought to tell cell phone companies to make phones with lower radiation. You know, that's a possibility. They may say, tell cell phone companies, go back to the drawing board, come up with a phone that emits less radiation.
So bottom line, for those who are watching and who've wondered about whether or not this causes cancer, right, it's all about keeping it away from your head.
Right. The WHO says possibly. So experts I've talked to say, why in the world would you take the risk? Keep it away from your head by using some kind of an earpiece.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thanks.
It's something a lot of people have been asking and wondering, and clearly we have something that is rather conclusive from a very prestigious organization.
That's
it is
right.
a big deal.
It is. It is.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks.